Welcome back to another video. I'm currently working on expanding my house and a platform because I saw a comment about how it looks like a prison compared to the rest of my base. And honestly, they are kinda right. Getting to the actual topic here though, the era of the mandatory digital internet passport is officially dead before it even got started. For the last 3 years, we have been living underneath the shadow of what I call the total identification era. Governments told us that it was inevitable. They said that if we wanted to, access social media, if we wanted to use a streaming service, or if we just simply wanted to log into a video game, we were going to have to hand over our government driver's license and our passport just to perform a biometric face scan just to verify that we are real human beings. We saw state laws popping up in places like Utah, Texas, and Louisiana mandating this technology under the banner of protecting the children. And we saw massive federal pushes looming over the entire internet, threatening to make anonymity a relic of the past. It was a dark, oppressive future where every single online interaction would have been permanently tied to your real world identity. Every comment, every like, every search, and every private message would be logged and categorized by a corporate state partnership that views digital anonymity not as a right, but as a potential threat. They made us believe that the fight for anonymity was over and that the human web was a mistake that needed to be sanitized by algorithms. We ranted about it on the channel. I talked about how the age of autonomy was dying. But today, the conversation seems to be completely different because I am here to tell you that the digital ID plan has not just, hit a wall, but it seems to be collapsing. We have won a definitive victory in the fight for the internet. The inevitable biometric surveillance state has been disrupted by a massive combined force of legal challenges, technical failures, and decentralized user resistance. The first major reason this dystopian plan failed is the absolute unmitigated technical disaster of the implementation. Look at Roblox, the platform currently serving as the crash test dummy for this entire surveillance experiment. In January of this year, they rolled out a global age check the chat requirement, mandating facial age estimation for being able to actually chat and use basic social features. They touted their system as the gold standard for communication safety. But within days of the launch, the entire system became a laughingstock. Users discovered that the facial age estimation technology was so easily tricked that a middle schooler with a Sharpie could literally bypass it. Kids were literally getting verified for adult chat rooms by drawing fake mustaches and wrinkles on their faces with markers or wearing cutout photo masks. I even know my sibling was able to get away with it just by altering the shadow of their face. At the same time, the system was misclassifying actual adults, locking 23-year-olds into teen chat brackets while letting 10-year-olds who look slightly older bypass every safeguard. It was more than a simple glitch. It was a proof of concept failure. When your state-of-the-art biometric security can be defeated by a fake mustache or a low-light selfie, the entire argument for mandatory identification falls apart. These companies promise total visibility, but instead they delivered a broken, buggy mess that only managed to annoy their legitimate users while doing absolutely nothing to stop bad actors. The second reason this plan is failing is the massive, high-stakes corporate panic happening behind the scenes. These tech monopolies, or what we accurately call slop, microslop for example, are finally realizing that an identified internet is a dead internet. Every time a platform announces mandatory ID checks or facial scans, they see a catastrophic drop in engagement. Look at Discord. They were supposed to roll out a global age verification system in March of this year, but they just announced a massive delay to the second half of the year. Why? Because they realized that users were ready to leave in droves and that their initial partners for facial estimation didn't even meet basic on-device privacy standards. There is a microslop situation across the board where these companies are trying to force feed us technology like Roblox's dynamic heads, which mandate facial rigs and animations for every avatar as a way to normalize constant camera tracking. But the thing is, the community pushback has been so intense that even the most tone-deaf product managers are starting to sweat and be nervous. Users aren't just like, complaining about these features. They are actually like migrating. Like dozens of VPN services have spiked a bunch in downloads in the regions where these laws have went into effect. And people are starting to, even hoard old versions of operating systems and Linux builds just to try and escape the encroaching age verification APIs. The tech giants, they thought that they could just hold our digital lives hostage. But the truth is, they forgot that the internet fundamentally is decentralized. They are losing the social consent even required to run a surveillance platform. And they're terrified of becoming the next MySpace. And that leads directly to the third reason that they are losing, which is the legal firewall that is finally being built. While the Supreme Court did recently upheld a Texas law requiring age verification for certain sites, that ruling was a direct blow that actually exposed how unworkable these laws are when applied to the broader web. Many sites are finding it that technically and financially impossible to implement these rules, leading them to simply just block entire states rather than risk the liability of a data breach. Lawmakers thought that they could pass a law and the tech would just work, but they are finding out that there is no such thing as a safe way to collect biometric data for hundreds, if not millions of people. The legal reality is that mandating ID for access to the internet is a violation of both the First and Fourth Amendments that most courts are beginning to find indefensible. We are seeing landmark pushback against laws in California, New York, and Illinois that have required age research at the point of device activation. The security theater is finally closing its doors because the actors have stopped following the script. Even the most aggressive politicians are starting to realize that if they push this too far, they're going to be the ones held responsible when the inevitable massive data breach happens. They are quietly walking back their mandates and requests and looking for the technically feasible alternatives that do not involve turning every home computer into a tracking station or device. This is like the victory that we have been waiting for. The failure of the digital ID is a win for privacy, and it's also a validation of the human comeback that we have been seeing. We have spent years being cooked by doomer tech, AI slop, corporate greed, and even more. But now the momentum has seemingly shifted. With millions of people are signing petitions and protesting against age verification, and millions of more simply just refuse to use platforms that mandate it, the inevitable becomes impossible. The dead internet era is coming to an end because we are choosing to leave the sanitized, monitor playgrounds, you could say, and go back to like the real web, the anonymous, authentic, human, and most importantly, messy internet, where the human element actually matters and shines. Governments thought that they could tag us like cattle, but we just proved that the internet, belongs to actual people, not the bureaucrats or the tech monopolies. Like that's it for this video. If you have any thoughts, just let me know, type a comment. And I'm really happy about these findings because the era of the digital ID is officially over, or it's coming to an end. Peace, and I'll see you next time.